safe, guys. I heard there was a hungry alligator roaming around that likes to eat numbers. I'm sure glad I didn't run into him today. So today's math lesson is all about numbers, and we're going to be comparing numbers. That means we're going to be looking at two numbers, and we're going to be deciding which number is bigger or which number is smaller. Now, before we get started, the first thing we need to understand is that numbers are important to God. First we know God created numbers, so I think they're important to Him if He made them. But think about the Bible. When we read the Bible, there's so many examples where numbers are used in the Bible. Think about the story of creation. The Bible tells us that God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day, God rested. If numbers were important, they might have just said, it took a little while and God created the world. But that's not what the Bible tells us. The Bible tells us exactly 6 days, and it tells us what God did on each of those days. And it tells us that on the seventh day, God was so happy with His creation. He rested. Think about the story of Noah and the ark. Think about God telling Noah how to put the animals on the ark 2 by 2. Or think about when Noah and his family were safe on the ark and God closed the ark door. The Bible tells us that God caused it to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. If numbers weren't important to God, the Bible might just have said, well, it rained for a long time. But it didn't tell us that. It told us for 40 days and 40 nights. Think about the story of Abraham and Sarah and how they had waited for so long for the thing they wanted most, a baby. The Bible tells us that when Isaac was born, Abraham was 100 years old. I can't even imagine having a baby at 100 years old. If numbers were important, the Bible might just have said, Abraham was really old. But instead, they told us exactly how old Abraham was. Think about the story of Easter. We just finished celebrating Easter. The Bible tells us that Jesus died on Good Friday, but He rose 3 days later. Think about Jesus and His disciples. It didn't just say He had a couple of guys that liked to follow Him around. It told us that there were 12 disciples of Jesus. So I think numbers are really important to God. Think about how the Bible's even organized. The books of the Bible are divided into chapters, and those chapters are divided into smaller pieces called verses. And each chapter and each verse has a number. I really think that numbers are important to God. The second thing we need to understand is that when God created numbers, He created them to have an order. So when we look at a hundreds chart, and Mrs. McCoy has her great big pocket chart here with all of my numbers from 1 to 100. But you might remember having one of these in your math drawer, a smaller hundreds chart. It's the same. The numbers on this chart are in the same exact order as the numbers on this chart because numbers follow God's order. I love to look at a hundreds chart and look at the patterns that we can see. When we look and we go across, I see that all of the numbers here have a 1 in front. Or if I come down here, all of the numbers in this row have a 5 in front. If I look going down this way, all of the numbers have a 6 in the ones place. God loves order, and He created numbers with an order. So I heard that there was that hungry alligator, and he wasn't hungry for normal things. He was hungry for numbers. Well, I know one thing about alligators, and that when they're hungry, they probably want to eat the most of whatever they can find. So our hungry alligator that liked to eat numbers probably wanted to eat the number that was bigger. Or another way to say that is the number that is greater. So today we're going to talk about two things, greater than and less than. Greater than just means more or bigger. Less than just means fewer or smaller. So remember at the beginning I said we're going to be comparing numbers. We're going to decide which number is bigger and which number is smaller. So think about when we read a book. We always read the same direction. We start in the left and we read across to the right. So today when we're looking at our numbers, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to look at the number that's on the left and then we're going to read across to the right. So I'm going to take two numbers. I'm going to take the number 3 and I'm going to take the number 7. Now if I was looking at these two numbers, remember we're going to start on the left, the number 3. Do you think 3 is bigger than 7 or smaller than 7? That's right, it's smaller than 7. So if our hungry alligator had a choice about which number to eat, 3 or 7, which one do you think he'd want to eat? Of course, he's going to want to eat 7 because it's a bigger number. So I'm going to make our alligator, and his mouth is going to open up so it can chomp down on the number he wants to eat. And remember, in this example, he wants to eat 7. So I'm going to draw my hungry alligator's mouth. I'll give my alligator some eyes. And he's got his alligator teeth. And he's ready to chomp the number 7. So if I were going to read this, this is what this tells me. Remember, start at the left. 3. This alligator's mouth, the way it's facing, it means less than. Can you say that with me? Less than. So 3 is less than 7. That just means that 3 is smaller than 7. Remember, a hungry alligator is going to chomp the bigger number. So if I erased this example, and this time let's try two different numbers. I'm going to try the number 10 and the number 2. Now remember, we always start on the left. So let's look at this number. Is 10 bigger or smaller than the number 2? It's bigger than the number 2, isn't it? So which number does our hungry alligator want to chomp? He wants to chomp the number 10. So this time his mouth is going to face the other way. So I'm going to draw my hungry alligator's mouth and it's going to open up so it can eat the number 10. And I'll give my alligator his eyes and his teeth. Because this hungry alligator wants to eat the bigger number, and this time 10 is the bigger number. So this is how we would read this. 10, this time this means is greater than. Can you say that with me? Greater than. Good. 10 is greater than 2. That just means that 10 is bigger than the number 2. It's more than 2. So today's activity is going to be practicing with a hungry alligator, and he's going to want to eat the number on your worksheet that is more or greater than. So you're going to look at the two numbers and you're going to decide which of those numbers is the bigger number. And the hungry alligator's mouth is going to open and chomp to eat whatever number is greater. So you're going to practice today with your Later Gator worksheet. I'm going to say safe in this room because, like I said, I don't want to run into that hungry alligator. I don't think he's in here, but if you happen to see him, would you let me know? All right, well guys, you are doing so great. We love you, we miss you, and we can't wait to see you guys. Bye.